This week on Men Don't Talk.
I said, I'm a pastor. I said, I can't go and rob a jeweller's. He went, look. He said, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. It's a dead cert. I said, I can't do it. I'm a pastor. He said, can't you put down the cross and take it one more time? Almost begging me. You know, I'm born again, but I wasn't born again yesterday. I remember knocking on his door and telling him I had a bit of drama. And he said, I can't help you out. He said, I've become a Christian. I said, shut up. I said, what are you going to do? Bake me a cake? You know, one of the best descriptions of suicide that anyone ever gave me was a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Evening.
Hey.
Is he closing or is he?
How are we doing? Pastor, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. How are you doing, lads?
Evening.
How are we doing? You all right?
All right.
Good. So just to introduce the gentleman here, we've got Paddy, our Scouse comedian. He does character comedy. So he's got an old fella that he does called Tommy, who's absolutely hilarious.
Nice to meet you.
And then we've got Andy here. Andy's kind of the founder of Men Don't Talk, the podcast. So Andy, do you want to introduce yourself and Paddy?
Yeah, how are we doing? You okay? I know these guys a bit from the kind of stand-up circuit, and I kind of found this about a year ago. We like to just let men on, get some experts on, get people on to share their stories and talk openly, and hopefully we can start men talking about stuff. We don't mind where it goes, any kind of conversation. Hopefully there'll be people listening in, guys listening in, that we can help out that might be struggling in whatever way, and we can have a bit of a laugh and get through it.
Brilliant.
Nice to meet you.
That's good to me. And you. Thanks for your patience.
That's
No,
all right.
Are we? Is everything coming through clear? Can you give us a lovely sentence in your lovely voice, just so we can hear that it's coming through clear? Okay.
West Ham are the best club in all the world.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
I normally say that when I'm preaching. I'll say, who we got, who people support. Someone will always say, Everton. I say, sorry? They say, Everton. I say, no, I'm just really sorry.
All right, Pastor, we're recording now, so I'll just get straight into it. So thank you for coming on Men Don't Talk this week. I'm really honoured to have my pastor. I've been going to Victory Outreach Manchester for about 4 years now. This is the church that I got baptized in, and I was probably a very different man before all of that. And one of the guys, or my mentors, and a funny man himself, very charismatic, is the senior pastor there, Pastor Paul Lloyd, who's a regional pastor for a global church called Victory Outreach, but a very real man. He's been, ex-East End gangster. He looks and sounds a bit like Ray Winston, and he's got classic lines in his sermons, and just an honourable gent. He does a lot of work now in communities, helping people with drug rehabilitation, working with prison work, helping women off the streets and all sorts. So the topic, or what I had in mind for bringing you on today, Pastor, was just, as a new Christian, I always get questions that I can't answer. Do you know what I mean? So I'm a bit like, go and ask a pastor, mate. Do you know what I mean? What are you asking me for? Go and ask a pastor. Go and ask a priest. Go and ask someone who studied it, who lives it. So then, I work around atheists. I work around people of different religions. So I know sometimes that there's certain burning questions that they may not have asked. I just thought we would get you on today and just have an open and frank conversation, if that's all right.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the answers either. So, but I'll do my best.
Pastor, I just always needed to ask, has anyone ever told you that you do resemble Ray Winston?
Well, I went to his bank once and I tried to draw some money out, but that didn't work. So I don't think I look much like him. I wish I had his money. Someone told me once I look like Brad Pitt's older brother Arm. That's close to a film star as I've got.
Oh, good. So, yeah, if you can, just for these chaps, can you just give us a bit about your background, maybe how you became a pastor? What was your life like before? Hello?
All right, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, it cut out. I've got terrible Wi-Fi at the moment for some reason.
Seems to have just improved now, actually, on mine.
Yeah, it's your pictures come through quality now.
Brilliant. I've just jumped from my wife's hotspot, so I'm using all her data at the moment.
The wrong thing to say around comedians.
Don't wear it out, will you?
That's the East Ender in me. You know, I'm born again, but I wasn't born again yesterday.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about your background, Pastor. What was you like before you became a pastor?
I'm from a beautiful little village in the East End called Canning Town, which has, you know, rivers running through it that are mainly blood, and I was brought up, you know, well. My mum and dad are still married, and you know, so I don't come from a broken family. Although I'm generationally West Ham, so you know that there's faith. There's always been faith in my lineage. You know, we've always believed that West Ham are going to win a match, and you know, we go there every week. We believe in that. But I became a drug addict at the age of 17 after being involved in gangs and stuff growing up as a young man. Got kicked out of school, not because I was stupid, just because I was a bit mad, a bit nutty. One of the things that I've struggled with since I was a kid was depression. I always had depression in my life since I was about 7. And then 12, I had another really bad episode. And then I was very sporty. I used to wrestle, freestyle wrestling. My dad was a British champion. He was in the Olympic squad, etc. And I got badly injured. So I was on that route. I wanted to be a wrestler. Used to train a lot, very fit. But I got badly injured. And I missed the tour to America. And I went on the tour, but I didn't get to wrestle. You know, I missed the European Championships, etc., etc. And then it started going down after that. Started getting involved in madness. Then at the age of 17, got involved in some crime, heavy crime. You know, security van stuff, allegedly. And just started getting involved in some drugs. And I started smoking weed and cannabis, and it took the depression away for a little bit. But then it would come back even heavier. And then we just progressed onto, you know, cocaine, and which made it lovely for a few minutes, and then much worse would have come down, and then eventually heroin. And so I was involved with heroin from 17, and 10 years of heroin, cocaine addiction, and then all of the crime that was associated with that as well. You know, I was allegedly a drug dealer, allegedly very wanted, you know, allegedly a violent criminal. And I was just stuck in it, I'll be honest. I just got stuck. And the depression was always there. And when you're stuck in that life and you're kind of told, people tell you when you're stuck in a place in life that that's it for you. You know, they'll maintain you, but you're really stuck in that. You're never going to change. They used to tell me once a junkie, always a junkie. And you kind of believe that. But then at the age of 27, someone threatened my life. A drug dealer threatened me. And where I come from, you know, you have to, there's only a few options then. You can run away and hide and never come back. You can roll over and be a victim, or you can make a statement. And, you know, I didn't survive all those years by being a victim or running away. And so I went to see a mate of mine to get a motorbike and a crash helmet, you know, a couple of crash helmets and a 9mm. And my mate had become a Christian. And I've never fought it. He used to spar with Nigel Benn. I don't know if you remember Nigel Benn, the box mate. You know, he was a lunatic, my mate, covered in tattoos, prize fighter, you know, all that stuff. And he'd become a Christian. It completely flipped me out. I remember knocking on his door and telling him I had a bit of drama. And he said, I can't help you out. He said, I've become a Christian. I said, shut up. I said, what are you going to do, bake me a cake? I don't need to be walking around in sandals here. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take the fella to a jumble sale. What's the matter with you? But he started to tell me about Christianity and about what had happened in his life. And something happened in my life as well. And it was a Wednesday night in July 1995 outside my mate Stan's gym. And my mate Stan was a Mr. Great Britain bodybuilder. And he looked like Thor out of the Avengers. He was, he was a big lump. He had bleached white hair. And he looked like he'd been creosoted. Like Ron Seal. He was like a Ron Seal advert. You know, where he was tanned. And he'd become a Christian as well. And they got me in a pincer movement, started telling me about Jesus and the truth of the Bible. And so I remember walking out saying, you're all lunatics. You know, I've got to get out of here. You're melting my head. You're all lunatics. And one of them said to me, listen, he said, what you got to lose? And I went and sat in my car on my own, sweaty old night in July. And that thing just kept going around my head. What you got to lose? What you got to lose? I was 27. I had long hair. You know, we used to do all the raves. You know what I mean? I was designer clothes. But now I was in a white, all the BMs and the Mazda RX-7s and all that, you know, kind of gone by now, up my arm and up my nose. And I remember praying. And I asked Jesus to forgive me for everything I'd done, and if he would change my life and break my addiction, I'd serve him forever. And I remember starting to cry. I started weeping, and I never used to cry. You know, I was one of them. You know, you learn how to bury your emotions when you're in that life. You know, I was always told this. You know, when swimming with sharks, don't bleed. And so you learn to bury your emotions, and they go deep. You become very heartless. And then all of a sudden, I just started crying, and I just felt that there was going to be a change and a way out. And there was. And that was 25 years ago. And I've never left him since. I've been following Jesus over land and sea, the same way I used to follow West Ham. I've been following over land and sea. You know, I've been a missionary in the Far East, in the Middle East, North and South America, Europe. And now I'm a senior pastor, married to a beautiful woman, got 2 beautiful kids. And, yeah, and then Dalu come along, ruined it. So,
well, we might have another one for you, because I think Paddy's got a question for you.
Well, the first one's a statement, really. It must be nice. You must feel really good that you've spent more time in Europe than West Ham have. And the other one was, I'm sort of, when you said that to me, I'm thinking, I'm trying to get that picture in my head. This is, you know, rough, tough lads. You've gone to someone that you is a trusted lad that you think, you know, he can sort something out for me. And he's got my side. You walk through the door, you go into his house, you ask him a question, which you in your mind's thinking, he's there, I'm okay. And you've got that plan in your head, what you're going to do. And all of a sudden he says, I can't help it, I'm a Christian. I mean, you gave us sort of like a lovely answer, but I'm thinking, that must have been a wow moment. You must have been in disbelief.
Yeah.
And I just sort of wanted to try and get my head around that picture of these two big fellas, and all of a sudden the question's there. How? What's happening?
Yeah, completely melted my head. I couldn't work it out. My head fell off. And it was, but here's the thing: if it had been anyone else, you know, God knows his moments. If it had been anyone else, I mean, you know, I don't know how much I should say, but me and him, this same fella, had actually had. We were having a crack binge at my house once, and two Jehovah's Witnesses knocked on the door, and so we let them in, and they couldn't believe their luck. And then, like 5 hours later, we finally let them out. So they were, you know, give them their due. They really tried hard for the first hour. You know what I mean? And then after that, they were completely bamboozled. But if it had been someone else telling me that, it wouldn't have gone in. But I think because I knew him, and there was an obvious change, there was an absolute change that had taken place. That stuff doesn't happen. People like us don't change like that. We don't get transformed. We don't get out of that life. We don't do that. You know, you get lifed off. I've had mates that have died in jail, that have hung themselves, that have OD'd, that have been stabbed. I've been stabbed. You know what I mean? People don't get out of that life too easy. And even the ones that make a few quid and, you know, they get on, sometimes they're 50, 60 years old and they get nicked, and then they're doing the rest of their life in the shovel. So because it was him, it really made me sit up and take notice, because he was coming out with all this stuff. It was quite alien to me, you know what I mean? I always believed in God. I've never been one that believes that we're just meat suits, you know, from an amoebic soup somewhere, just accidents of nature. That stuff don't make sense to me. You know, if anything's been created, it's had a creator. It doesn't happen by accident or by chance. And so, but the whole Jesus thing and salvation and transformation and all that, it was a complete shock. But because I knew this fella, because I knew his background, because I knew his stamp, he was saying stuff to me and I was listening. And it, you know, and then the proof of it came. I gave it a chance. I really did. I grabbed hold of it. And then since then, the proof of it just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. And, you know, 25 years, I just finished my last master's unit, an MA that I'm doing, just last week on Zoom. So that was mental. But, you know, I've studied. I'm not just some blind face sort of dude. I've studied the evidence. But it was just... Yeah, you can imagine it, can't you? I mean, he's a lump. He's covered in tattoos. He looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme. I mean, but harder.
So you've gone from this fella that you respect and everything, and he's telling you this stuff. Then there's the stage. Then is you've got your friend. He's got the pincer movement on you. The two of them are talking to you. Then there must have been at some point. You must have gone somewhere, either to a church or wherever it was that you went. Because that's the next step, isn't it? Something that you may not have thought that, you know, that's not something for me, but then you've took that step. How did that all work out?
It was weird, actually. So they took me to a church in Canning Town that was an African church. And so, you know, I was completely bamboozled because they was really going for it, you know what I mean? And my idea of church was, you know, from when I was in the Cubs, you know, with someone up there in a dress, you know what I mean, mumbling some stuff, and it's all cold and boring. But they were proper going for it, and it freaked me out a little bit. So I was kind of like, wow, this is a bit, you know, it's a bit full on. So they said to me then, and there was another mate of mine who was he was a professional boxer. He's dead now. He was a proper, you know, nose across his face. Used to run stuff up in Soho, but right lunatic, ex-army, you know what I mean, right nutter. And he come along, and then me and this fella Lee, who told me about the Lord first, they said, come on, we're going to go away for the weekend to a Christian camp in Wales, right? So I've gone, all right, sweet. So we've gone, and it's all travellers. It was a gypsy Christian conference with like 100 or 200 gypsies. So we turned up all these gypsy men, and it was mad. It was mad. And I'm seeing all these travellers, and I knew some travellers from back in the day. You know, I had a mate who was one of the enforcers for the London gangs, great big lump traveller, and we got there, and there's Shogun Jeeps, there's flatbed trucks, there's Whippets and Lurchers, and men with braces and gold rings and vests and airy chests, and you know what I mean, all sorts of accents. And I'm thinking, this is mental. And then we all went into the centre, and they started praying, and they started singing, and it was like a choir. And I was looking around thinking, I'm not getting that over here. These men are real. They've all got scars and one tooth, and you know what I mean, all sorts of stuff going on. You know, knuckles like blind cobblers, and you know what I mean. But they were real. And so straight away I started thinking to myself, there's something really in this, because these blokes are not getting mugged off here. You know, they're not singing Kumbaya and playing games here. These fellas are lunatics. You know, they've been places, and something's happened in their life. So straight away I started really sitting up and taking notice. And I think, you know, the timing of it and the meeting of the right people was really instrumental in really inserting me into that kind of understanding of Christianity, that it's not just a cultural thing for middle class, you know, white people. It's not just a thing for, you know, black Africans or whatever. This is a thing that there's all different types of people involved in. And then the thing that really done it for me was that my addiction got broken. 10 years of addiction. Boom. It just got broken. It was gone. And, you know, I went to sleep one night and woke up, and that was it. I was never sick. And I had a Harley Street doctor, you know, he used to give me all my drugs and all that. We used to pay him. And I could not get off. And then, boom, I became a Christian. I went into a Victory Outreach home that we run across the world. It's like a recovery program. And boom, went in there and was never sick. And I've never had withdrawal symptoms since that day. So, you know, mental stuff happened. And then not only that, but the depression, I've had a couple of bouts of it since. But what would normally take me months to get through, and pills and all the rest of it, you know, there's something that just has changed the way I think. It's changed the way I act and the way I see the world and myself. And so the proof of it has just come back to me time and time again that this is real.
Brilliant. Okay, Andy, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. And I'm just conscious that there'll be people listening to this as well, maybe for the first time. And I think it's important to kind of stress that we're talking about religion. I think from my side of things, I'm an atheist, and what I'm trying to do I'm nearly 40 now. So in the second half of my life, though, I'm trying to use my ears more than my mouth. I certainly have in the first half of my life use my mouth more than my ears, and I'm trying to, you know, take in new experiences. And something that you said that sparked my interest there definitely was, because I've got 4 young boys myself, is you said that you felt depression from the age of 7, and that's the youngest I've ever heard anyone talk about depression. How did that manifest itself, and you know, what was that? You know, what happened there?
I can remember the day. I can remember it. My nan used to have a caravan over the Isle of Sheppey, just off the coast of Kent, and all the East Enders and people used to, you know, that was one of our things. We'd go to the caravan park. That was our holidays. And then we'd have all our little gangs, and, you know, we'd fight each other and have catapult wars and play football and all that. And I remember one time I was 7 years old, and we got down there, we'd driven down there. Friday night, my dad had got home from work, stuck us all in the motor. It was a Cortina. It was it had a brown vinyl roof, and it was banana. It was like a banana colour with a brown vinyl roof. I don't know if you can remember those days.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit more detail?
There was a slight hint of lilac in the air.
Sorry,
carry on.
So we've got down there, and the first thing they do is they stop for some fish and chips. Going to get some fish and chips, and then go to the caravan, you know, get all our stuff out, get bedded in, go down the clubhouse, they'd have a beer, you know what I mean? I'd have a shandy, or whatever. Depending how tired I was, they might. When I was a kid, they used to dip me dummy in a whiskey and all that. You know what I mean? So that was old school. But I'm sitting outside the chippy. They're in there getting the chips. I'm sitting in the motor, and all I can describe it is this darkness come on me, and just this utter sense of hopelessness. And I can remember thinking, "There's no hope." All I can remember thinking is, "There's no hope. There's no hope. There's nothing to look forward to." Just this horrible, dark feeling come on me. And when they got back in the car, they said, "What's the matter with you?" I must have been, looking a bit weird. And I just kept saying to them, and they couldn't understand it. They didn't understand what I was saying. They just kind of poo-pooed it, you know what I mean? And got through it. And then it kind of stuck around. But then when I was 12 was the second time I had an episode. And I was doing well at school. I was quite intelligent. I was in the football team. I was wrestling. I was, playing football at quite an high level and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, it just come on me again. Just this hopelessness. It's just a sense of hopelessness. Darkness and hopelessness. No purpose, no meaning. There's no purpose in life. There's no meaning. I don't mean anything. There's no hope for me. There's nothing. And then they even started sending me to see people at school. They used to send me to an hypnotherapist at one point, which was lovely, because I used to go out of lessons and lay on this bed listening to whale music and having a kip. It was lovely. So I used to play on that, you know what I mean? I'd be like, "Oh no, I need it again. Oh, it's helping me." It was just this horrible, dark sense of hopelessness. And the only thing that helped me was, this was before they were just giving everyone medication. Now, they give a lot of people medication that, in my opinion, don't really need it. But it's just because they haven't got the time. Doctors haven't got the time to really speak to people. But when I started smoking cannabis, it eased it. It blanketed it. It blanked it out a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And it would go while I was high, and then it would come back even worse with the when there was a come down, when I was coming down, and so I'd do it again, and in the end it was just self-medication really. It's the only thing I could describe. It was just self-medication. But I can remember it. It was just this sense of meaningless, hopelessness, purposelessness. I'm nothing. I'm no one. I'm going nowhere. There's no meaning to life. And I can remember it clearly. It was horrible.
Powerful.
Wow. Absolutely powerful. Do you know what? I think that's one of the best descriptions of that element of depression that I've heard. Just literally that feeling of complete hopelessness and what's the point? I think, it's really powerful, that, because I think you're a strong guy. Your whole aura comes across as very strong. So it's good, I think, as men out there to hear that it happens to the best of us.
I work with ex-servicemen. A lady in our church who's got a charity that works with ex-servicemen that have suffered from PTSD. And so I go and I do the spiritual element of the cohort. They do 6-week cohorts. And it's to get them back into construction. It's called Project Recce. Brilliant, brilliant charity. It's run by a lady in our church, Susan McCormack, and a guy called Loz Moore, who was a captain in the, I think it was the Mercians, been in Afghan and Iraq and all that. And so when I go there, talking about strength and strong men, these are combat veterans, right? These are men that are trained. They've volunteered, they've trained, they've passed selection in different areas. They've gone into combat, they've faced combat, they're strong men. But sometimes the strength is like if a tree is too strong in a storm, if it don't bend, it'll break. And sometimes as men, I think sometimes we're trained almost from our young years to be strong and unbending. And, sometimes when these things happen, when certain things happen, if you haven't got that sense of flexibility, if you're not willing to or understand that you can be weak at times, then people just break. So I have a saying, blessed are the flexible, but they shall not be bent out of shape. And that's like one of my little proverbs, you know what I mean?
I like that. Andy, did you have a question, mate?
Yeah, just in regard to that there, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I think there's conversations going on possibly around the strength of men. I think my kids at school have been through some of that, and they were talking about it. And I asked my stepdad, who's 9, what is a strong man? What do you think a strong man is? And he said, obviously the stereotypical stuff, you know, the muscles, you know, it'd be big and it'd be strong, and he'd be dominant, and you know, and it might be fast or whatever. And having a conversation like that with him, obviously it's quite stereotypical and all those kind of things come out. But I talked to him about, what do you think about being honest? You think a strong man's honest? And he was like, yeah, I think a strong man, yeah, I think he's honest. I was like, well, do you think a strong man cries? Do you think a strong man shows his emotion? He was like, no. And it's that bit there, isn't it? It's that line there for me, where it's, for me personally, I consider someone like my dad to be a strong man, and he talks openly. And I think talking openly and talking about your feelings is now and should be recognised as a sign of strength. You know, it's easy not to talk about it, or, you know, we can all push it away. But I think the word strength in the modern context has got to be around being open and honest as well. Just a personal thing of mine.
No, I completely agree. I you know, when people talk about what's a strong man to me, I exactly that, honesty. You know, being real, being able to be real is very, very important. There's so many fakers out there. You know what I mean? They put on a mask, don't they? There's more masks walking around than in the Avengers. You know, in a playground or in a pub or something. It's like everyone thinks they're in the Avengers. You know what I mean? And they've got so many masks on. But being real, being consistent. You know, I just on this thing with racism at the moment, my church is 65% black. And, you know, talking to people about racism, and a lot of the young men that get involved in gangs, when I've been doing stuff with gangs, you know, I do a lot of gang intervention work. I know people from everywhere, man. If I was to ever backslide from being a Christian, I'd be a lunatic. I've got contacts everywhere. But a lot of
he's not lying. Mexican cartel, everything, man. He's not lying.
Everywhere, brother. You know what I mean? You know, not only have I got Jesus backing me up, but I've got Mexican mafia, I've got Camorra, I've got all sorts of people, you know. But some of them haven't got any consistent male figure in their life.
Yeah.
There's no consistency. And look at all the madness that has come from men being inconsistent by wearing masks and not being open with their emotions. And instead of being open with your emotions, they just walk away, don't they? Because you're either going to change your attitude or you're going to change your address. And most men, what they do is they don't want to change their attitude. They don't know how to change their attitude. They don't know how to show their emotions. So instead, they change their address. They just cut out. They walk away. They jog on. And then someone else gets broken, you know, because of that. And it's an important thing. You know, being a real man, I think, is being someone who's loyal, who's consistent, who's honest. You know, some of them old school kinds of things. Are you with me? Anyone can be a gangster, and most of them are muppets, I'll be honest.
I couldn't, I'll tell you that, just because I'm weak. It's not a moral standpoint.
To be honest, he keeps a van. That's all we're saying on that, Pastor. There's a running joke on the podcast about Andy's van, but we're going to leave that this week because there's been some interesting news in the press. But Paddy, did you have a question there, fella?
No, it's more of a statement, really. I get an awful lot of what you're saying about the strength and consistency of having of male role models as young people growing up, but from someone that didn't have that, I'd just like to think that obviously there's the strength of a mum or another parent would also be able to get you to that place where you have got that strength. I certainly hope so. I think life's got me consistent. I hope, or I'm certainly trying to work towards it. I just think the emphasis is about how you get that strength as opposed to who's there. But it is important, but it's how you get it for me. As long as you get someone, auntie, whatever, someone that's there, that is, like you say, consistent with you and is able to talk to you and keep it on the line, then that's fair enough. It doesn't necessarily always have to be in your own family or certainly a male figure.
Well, we put a church in Liverpool. I've got a church. I planted a church in Anfield, and so we have a lot of Scousers over there, and they remind me of Cockneys. They remind me, of the Cockney women, of me nan and me mum and different people. You know what I mean? No nonsense. No. You know what I mean? Tell it as it is. Very strong. You know what I mean?
Quick-witted.
Very quick-tongued, quick-witted.
Yeah.
They don't even have to slap you. Their tongue just comes out and just takes part of your weight.
Yeah. I used to be terrified going to my nan's. My nan was 4'8", and as soon as we walked in, we were just quiet, didn't say a word, because we knew we were going to be on the end of a tongue if we did anything out of place.
Yeah, my kids even now, sometimes they walk along, they just wince, and I know that it's me nan. You know what I mean? It's so hard. Kids are feeling it.
So, Paul, growing up, we usually have some set questions that we ask on Men Don't Talk. Who were your role models? Who did you look up to kind of growing up, and was there any particular reason to why you looked up to them?
Yeah, my dad. I love my dad. He's a strong, solid man. Real role model. Very consistent. You know what I mean? He's and a real man. All his mates were lunatics. He was a wrestling champion. You know what I mean? And all his mates were nutters. I mean, I'd go down the club. It was called Sparta. It was in the East End. I mean, with a name like Sparta, it's going to be full of lunatics anyway. But we had people in there, SAS, SBS. We had, there was the head of the SPG at one point, Ivan. You had doormen, gangsters, lunatics. And my dad was respected by all of them. And he wasn't a gangster. He's a lunatic, broken nose, was in fights and stuff when he was young, but very consistent, very loving, always there. And even in my addiction, when I really went mental, still loved me, man. No nonsense, but still loved me, told me he loved me, you know what I mean? Didn't like what I was doing, don't bring it home. I've had police kicking the door in and coming through looking for stuff and guns and drugs, but he was consistent. He was always there loving me. And then me big granddad, me pops, D-Day landings. He landed on D-Day. He was a docker. He used to work down the docks, Silvertown. Lovely fella. Used to grow roses. Big lump he was, but he used to grow roses. You know what I mean? And people would walk down the street. All right, Mr. Lloyd. All right, Mr. Lloyd. And he'd come out. He'd give them a rose or something to the ladies and that. You know what I mean? Just real people. And then me nan. What a lovely old Cockney woman. No nonsense. She used to work over the docks as well in the canteens, and we used to eat well. That's all I'll say. We used to eat well. We always had tea bags and coffee and recorders and tellies and things like that. So.
Yeah, there's definitely a link between the Dockers in London and them in Liverpool.
Yeah.
No one went short.
Andy, did you have a question?
Yeah. Just building on that, one of our kind of questions that we ask a core one as well is, what would you say to a younger you? So I guess we're getting to the meat of it now, really. Like, there are many men and women, I guess, that you see, that you probably mentored and you've tried to help, that have gone down the paths that you've gone down, stuff that's not helping them in their lives, and they've got to a place in their lives where they need change, whether that be spiritual or not. What the question we ask is, what would you say to a younger you?
I would say, believe in yourself a little bit more, and don't take the quick fix. Don't take the easy route, because there's no shortcut to the cutting edge in life. you know, and understand that the quick fix is just that. It's just going to be quick, but you're not going to have long lasting results from trying to shortcut things. You know, I wish I'm 52, man. I'm just finishing doing some study. I could have done that when I was 22. You know what I mean? I wasted 10 years of my life on drugs. 10 good years between 17 and 27. They're like the prime of your life, and I wasted it. You know what I mean? As someone said, you know, I had money. I spent most of it on drugs and drinking and cars and, you know, holidays and women and all that. And the rest of it I wasted. But I wish I wish I would have I wish I would have taken the longer route. I used to despise people that were straight goers, that were married with a mortgage, 2.4 kids and a job. And I used to think they were weak. They weren't. And then I'm 27 years old, and some of the people that I used to look down on, you know, I'm in an old Ford Escort with nowhere to live, with the police after me, you know, skinny junkie, track marks all over me. And the people that I used to despise, that were almost paid off their first house, that had a new car, that were married and happy and had kids. And, you know, what a waste. What a waste. So that's what I'd say to myself, you know what I mean? Don't waste those years. Invest in those years, so that when you're older, you're gonna reap the benefit of it.
And how would you make yourself listen to that? How do you engage with people to try and listen to that? Because it's easy to say as well, isn't it? I totally agree. You know, it's great stuff, but how do you get through to people?
It's very difficult, very, very difficult. But you just got to keep banging away. You just got to keep trying. And I think that you talk to them where they're at. You listen to some of their stuff, and I don't try and impose things on people. You know, I try and if I can, I'll try and talk to them and get them to answer their own questions. You know what I mean? Get them to start looking at stuff. Get them to start speaking about stuff, and then just guide them, just tease them, just ask them questions. And rather than me telling people like some school teacher, you know what I mean? I want to ask them questions. And if I can ask them questions, then sometimes what happens is they end up answering themselves. And if it's that sense of ownership, are you with me? If you get someone to own something, then they're on the right path.
Absolutely.
I'm just looking at myself. I've gone missing, haven't I? Shall I turn the light on?
Yeah, if you can. I was just about to ask there, Pastor. I thought you were doing an homage to Blackout Tuesday.
I was going to actually say, I was going to say that the more, you know, I was listening to what you were saying and I was hooked into your words, and then, but it was getting darker and darker. And, oh.
And now the light.
Yeah. Should have made that dramatic, and then I found it.
I've given you an illustration of how the depression used to come on me.
Yeah.
And then I became a Christian, and on come the light.
Now, I've had a personal question that I've wanted to ask you, Pastor. The two of them, actually. One of them is our usual set topic question, because I think you're one of the funniest guys that I know outside of the comics that I meet. You crack me up probably every flipping service that I watch. There's always a gag. There's always something in there that I'm thinking, I need to steal that for my own. Do you know what I mean? So there's definitely some comedic essence in you, and I've spoken to your wife as well, and she's mentioned that you know that you've spoken about maybe if you weren't a pastor, would you have been a comedian? So when we do have comedians on here, what we like to ask is, who are your comedy heroes? Who do you enjoy watching? You know, and if you were to put them in a name, i.e. Billy Connolly and Jimmy Carr, it would be Billy Carr. So who would your two kind of top comics be?
Okay, let me think. Definitely, one would be Monkhouse,
Yes! Yes! You're the first person to say that. That's I told you guys. Monkhouse, Monkhouse, the original Jimmy Carr. Go on, sorry.
Yeah.
Got there, didn't I?
The other one is so it would be Tommy Monkhouse or Bob Cooper.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, love Tommy Cooper. Love him. Absolutely brilliant.
Genius.
Absolutely. And the second question, this is going to go a little bit deeper now, but you probably represent for a lot of men who are in leadership positions, and you know, you have people, you have a staff that look up to you, and this goes out to people that are in management, directing, or you know, just leading a family, for example. What's the pressures of living a life of exampleship like, and how does that affect you mentally?
You know, if it's real, it's if it comes from who you are, then it's not really, you don't really notice it as a pressure.
Okay.
I think people that try it, that fake it, really, that are trying to project an image that they're not, I think they come under a lot more pressure than that. The pressure really is, if there is pressure in leadership, it's that consistency. It's making sure that your inside and your outside both match, that your word and deed match. It's just about integrity. That word integrity, it literally means, you know, being together, having it together, having you know, nothing coming apart. And so I don't do anything that I don't live. You know, I don't want people to do stuff I don't do. It's not do what I say. You know, it's more watch what I do. And that's how I train people. Watch what I do. Now let's do it together. Now you do it. And so that modeling, that coaching, you know, type of ideal. And then it's learning perspective. One thing I've come to learn over the years is not everyone's problem should be my emergency. And so sometimes people want you to just jump through hoops for them all the time. And I'll say, we'll leave it till the morning. You know, I'm doing something with my wife and kids. You know, obviously wanting to kill themselves, then obviously you're there like a shot. But a lot of stuff is just making sure you've got good boundaries. You know what I mean? Making sure you've got your perspective right, and that you're actually doing what it is that you've got a conviction to do.
Absolutely. Okay, brilliant answer. Andy, did you have a question there?
Yeah. I was wondering about your hobbies and interests. The reason why is because I've got a big thing when you talked about talking to a younger you. I always find with people that they are interested in certain things, and then throughout their life, they may drop those things. And I often found myself that coming back to the things that you loved when you were a kid really adds identity to you, and it's added a lot of confidence to me in coming back to interests that I had as a kid and developing those interests. And I feel like that's improved my self-esteem massively by just being me, going back to the things I love and doing them. So I'm wondering, what kind of hobbies and interests do you have that kind of help you out when life goes a bit shitty? What do you do outside of that to wind down or get happy?
Yeah, obviously I've had to stop robbing. Some of the things that used to interest me when I was young, that's one of the things I've had to let go of, unfortunately. But I'm a reader. I love reading. And I love studying history. I love history. I don't play golf. I don't do anything like that. I work out, you know what I mean? I'm interested in my football and stuff. But really, in the little bit of time that I do have to just relax, I will read. And I will read novels. I'll read, you know, different books. Because it puts me in places that my imagination, you know, I wouldn't be able to normally get to, or, you know what I mean? It takes me to places. And I know it's boring, but I love reading, you know. And I wrestle crocodiles. But, you know, that's just an aside.
Andy, did you have a question, mate?
It might not be a question that you can answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Right. Just imagine a scenario where you're in a situation where there's a nailed-on opportunity for you to have something away, and you're going to get away with it scot-free. Have you ever found yourself in that situation? What did you do? Did you have to? Because I just there's the devilment of me when I was younger, because I wasn't. There was a few situations where I did things I shouldn't have done, and when I've had opportunity, allegedly. And there's been opportunities later on in time where in your head you look and you think, oh, and then you just laugh to yourself because you think, at 30 years ago, I probably would have done it. But so I just wondered, in your situation, what has there ever been and what was that sort of, if you like, what's the way, it's temptation, isn't it?
And I've been in them situations. I have been in them situations. I had a mate come to me, and he said, I've got a bit of work for you. And he was a roofer, right? And I said, I don't like roofs. He went, no, not that sort of work. He said, it's a jeweler's. I said, shut up, stop it. I said, I'm a pastor. I said, I can't go and rob a jeweler's. He went, look. He said, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. It's a dead cert. I said, I can't do it. I'm a pastor. He said, can't you put down the cross and take that one more time? Almost begging me. And in the end, I said, no, I can't do it. And I was, I at the time, I was on the floor. I didn't have a penny. We'd just come to Manchester. I didn't have a bloater. And I said no. And so he grumbled and all the rest of it, and he went away. The next time I saw him, he had a brand new house. He had a brand, and I'm like, you know what I mean? It was like, but yeah, I've had several things like that have happened from back in the day. Several things, and I've said no to all of them, and I'm glad I did, because the inside of me is more important than anything I can ever have on the outside. The integrity of my inner life, my peace, is more important than anything else I can have. And don't get me wrong, I'm all right now. I've got a nice house. I've got to drive a nice car. I'm looking good. You know what I mean? Got film star looks. You know what I mean? When I was young, I used to have a 6-pack. Now I've got an 18-pack, so I've developed. You know what I mean?
You can't lie to yourself, can you? Can't lie to yourself. And that was in regard to the robbing, not the 18-pack, by the way.
That's what they used to say to my Scouse mates. What's the difference between Batman and a Scouse? Batman can go out without robbing.
Hey!
This is, I think,
allegedly.
Now, I think just before we started, Paddy had a question for me. Do you still have that question, Paddy?
Yeah, it was, and I suppose looking back on it now, it puts you on the spot a little bit. But why did you choose Pastor Paul's church?
Oh, put me on the spot there. With my journey, I'm Zimbabwean born, but grew up in Essex. I've always, that's my heritage. My mum's Catholic, my dad's Seventh Day. I've always believed that there was a God. My issue was with religion. I used to read conspiracy books. I used to be one of those guys, why do they need this if it's all about being holy? I used to question everything. So I understand where the atheists were coming from, but I was a bit like Pastor Paul, that no, I don't believe that it's just nothing. So I believe that there was a higher thingy to it. But I had issues with the religion aspect. So, for example, we went on a very long journey to South Africa, pull up to my auntie's house, and the next day we had to go to church. She's having a go at my dad for wearing jeans, where it's like, do you know what? We've spent 2 days. We've come all the way from the UK, spent 2 days from South Africa to Zim, and you're moaning about jeans. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Jesus would have really minded. As you made the journey, you made the effort. And I think I just went to a random rally in town in Manchester City Centre, Piccadilly Gardens, and I just started going to the church, and it was his delivery. And I think you've watched Pastor Paul now, you know he's a real guy, he's a real man, he's a man of integrity, and you can get that just from speaking to him. I don't really have to promote that too much, but there was one key line where he said, I'm not here to bring you a religion. I'm here to bring you closer to God. And I thought, that's the guy, man. That's the guy, because I've always been sold on the religious aspects of it. And I've had my sisters used to breathe down my neck. You know, friends used to breathe down my neck. You know, you need to come here. You must come here. You need to do this. And no one said, just connect with God and see how you find it. And this is what he did. And it was as simple as that. It was as simple as that. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
And I think going back to it, it's the church as well, mate. I grew up in Church of England school, St. Mary's school. Used to go there every Wednesday and Sunday. And the one thing that always used to be a bit of a bugbear for me is actually doing something for people, doing something for the community. And the one thing that Victor Outreach is renowned for is that kind of changing people's lives. So like people that have been ex-gangsters, drug dealers, prostitutes, you know, just dodgy people, or even wholesome good people, but allowing that transformation to take place. And I think a lot of churches used to just stand back and you come to us and then we'll teach you a way, but we're not going to do much in the community, where these guys have got 2 homes at the moment that, you know, help drug and alcohol rehabilitation. Like that's what you want to hear. That's where you want to know where your money's going to in your offerings and things like that. Do you know what I mean? Rather than a jet somewhere and a private island. So that's kind of, if that hopefully answers your question there.
Yeah, it's for me, I often wonder about, because we as you just explained now, Pastor Paul said about how the change was there for him, and it's sort of trying to work out that is it an instant thing, is it transitional? You've explained it's transitional. For some people it's a longer change than others, and that's how I was trying to work out almost how does that happen. And it sounds to me like your journey, Pastor Paul, started before you'd even got into church, and that's from the people that you spoke to. And I think the same again for you, Dalu. It was just for you, maybe where was the right place? It had to be someone that you spoke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to think people going to religion, they must have had something bad in their life and they're running away to it. That was my fault. I didn't think you could be settled and happy and just actually want to improve on how you're living and how you're thinking spiritually. And if you look at it now in the world that we live in, a lot of people doing that where they will look at books like The Secret, or they will say, oh, I'm giving love to the universe. And it's in that same vein. People are, if you ask yourself, people are seeking something. They know that there's something a bit more. And that's why that's why I said about, if you don't believe in God, why do atheists still get married in churches? Why do they still get buried in a church graveyard? If you really don't believe, or something in your spirit there, why do you get your kids christened? Is it just a traditional thing? Is it just a cultural thing? Is it, is there some part of you that even if you don't believe, I still want me kid getting christened because there's something there?
I agree with that, but I'm not christened. My kids aren't christened. I didn't get married in a church, and I'm going to donate my body to medical research.
There's always one. There's always one.
So do you know what I mean? I don't
my
know
dad's older than yours.
A couple of the things that something that really got me at the beginning was finding out scientifically about stuff. Because, cosmologically, cosmologists and physicists and all that can measure scientifically about 5% of the universe. They know about 5%. Now, if you got 5 out of 100 on a test, you're going to fail. Right? So there's 95% that you ain't got a clue about. Could it be that somewhere in that 95% there's God? could it be that in the bit that you don't know, that you hasn't been revealed to you yet, that God is alive and well? And maybe that got revealed in another way to people like me. You know, I saw a different percentage. Are you with me? Quantum physicists right now will tell you, string theory and all the rest of it, that we live in 4 known dimensions, right? You've got spatial dimensions, length, width, height, and then you've got time. They're the 4 known dimensions. That's what makes up our space-time continuum. But they've also now measured at least another 6 dimensions beyond ours that we don't know and that they can't find, but they know are there mathematically. So do you not think that God can dwell in that place? You know what I mean? That he is an extra dimensional, interdimensional being. So that's my question for people that say, well, prove God to me. I'm like, prove dark matter to me. You know, prove gravity. You can't do it, but you know it's there. And you can't prove electricity. You know, you can't measure it, you can't prove it, but everyone knows it's there. So with God, it's the fact of what he does that proves it.
I'm not an expert in any way whatsoever. So I would definitely won't enter into debate with my my intellect. But I think the best thing that I've heard it clearly really is kind of a Ricky Gervais kind of thing. I guess he speaks to Richard Dawkins and stuff, doesn't he? And he said to a guy that we are very, very similar. And the guy said, well, I believe in God and you don't. He said, yeah, but we're so similar, because there's about 3,000 gods that are believed in this world, and you don't believe in 2,999 of them, and I don't believe in 3,000 of them. So we're so close. We are so close.
Yeah.
And it's tongue in cheek, isn't it? But I guess I'm kind of camped within that area. But I don't think anybody, and hopefully anybody listening, can argue with someone changing their life, and whatever that is for them. I fully embrace that. And I guess my kind of last question for you, Paul, is that we always are struggling with men clearly don't talk. Statistics show that, and suicide and all that kind of stuff. But I imagine within a church community, actually, someone like yourself, men probably do open up to you. Is that the case? And what do you see, and what's your attitude with it?
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, one of the best descriptions of suicide that anyone ever gave me was a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Quite often, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And the thing is that most of these problems, if you talk about them, if you get a bit of wisdom, if you get a bit of advice, if you just sometimes speak up, speak out, you'd be surprised at how much better you actually can feel. There's a guy, I don't know if you remember the old-fashioned movies, J. Arthur Rank, and there used to be a big gong and a half-naked man banging a gong, right? Well, he was my dad's mate. He used to wrestle with him. So that's you know. But J. Arthur Rank, the producer, so the legend goes, he used to have something called Worry Wednesday. And what he used to do, when anything used to worry him, he'd write it down on a bit of paper and stick it in a little box on his desk. And he'd only open that box on Wednesday. And the thing is, he recounted this somewhere, that every Wednesday he'd open the box and he'd look through all the worries, and most of them had been taken care of. So there was no point in worrying about that temporary thing. There's always something there, it works its way out. So people do open up to me, and I listen. And as you said at the beginning, Andy, I think, you know, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You want to learn how to listen more than you speak, right? And that's why God give us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I think instead of always us trying to put our stuff on people, if we just let people speak and give them a safe place without judgment, without competition, you know, I'm not trying to get one over on you. I'm not trying to, you know, find out stuff about you that's going to make me better than you. But if you've just got a safe space where you can just open up and be yourself and be for real and know that it's going no further, and if I've got anything I can add, if I've got anything I can share, if I can help in any way, I will. And if not, then I'll just be with you. You know what I mean? I'll listen to you. I think having that safe space is essential. And the whole competition thing and the comparison thing, You know, the enemy of contentment is comparison, man. And men do it all the time. And so I think having that safe space and providing a safe space for your friends or your peers or anyone else around you, that they know that they can share something with you and it's going to go no further. They don't have to prove nothing. And then afterwards, you pat each other on the back, put your arm around each other, walk off and go and do whatever it is you're going to do. I think if there was more of that for men, more of those places and spaces for men, then there'd be less men committing suicide.
Absolutely, that is brilliant. Pastor Paul, just before we wrap up, can you just confirm any kind of social media or platforms where perhaps if any of the audience have any further questions, they can find you, locate you, and just maybe ask you, is it victoryoutreach.org?
Yeah, it's vomanchester.org is our website. V for Victory, O for Outreach Manchester, vomanchester.org. And you can find out all of our details on there. There's also a little, like a speech bubble icon. If you press on that, you connect with one of our team. We've got pastoral care team. At the moment, we're doing food drops. You know, we've helped people out with some money where necessary. And there's always someone to listen or someone to talk, you know, or someone to pray. If you want to see us on Facebook, just look for Victory Outreach Manchester. Or on YouTube, Victory Outreach Manchester, and then on Instagram, it's VOMCR. And you can find out all the stuff we do. We've got archives of materials and messages and, you know, different conferences we've done. And at the moment, since the lockdown, I've been preaching the pandemic series. So that's all about issues around the pandemic, all the different things that we've seen, who's essential, who's not. The last one last Sunday was called the racism message. And it was just all about racism and our stance on racism and injustice. So, you know, if you want to contact us, by all means, contact us. And, you know, we'd love to speak to you more.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Been my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Just as a final word, thanks for taking Andy Carroll off us for 18 million. You really cheered us up a few years ago. Just really...
Yeah, but you don't know what we did with him, do you? We rented him out for a few things.
Oh. Right. Until the next time, gents, and I think, Pastor, we definitely have to get you back because I know these boys have probably got some other prying questions that they want into your background and life, and I know I do. So, yeah, we'll definitely have to repeat at some point.
Oh, I'd love it. I've got loads of stories, mate.
Lovely.
Superb.
Brilliant. Until the next time, gents. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.